Okay, now what we're going to do is a little project, a little CSS project, and we're going to code a simple blog layout. As you see right here, we have a very simple one-page kind of blog layout. We have the header up here with the level 1 heading, and then we have some articles with various content within here, and then we have a duplicate article, and then a very simple sort of footer with centered content and background colors and different text colors and horizontal rules, borders, different font families, and so on and so forth. There's actually a lot going on here to create a simple, beautiful looking blog layout. And this is a pretty general blog layout. This isn't just something fake that would be pointless for you to learn. This is actually using some conventions that I use on a daily basis when I'm developing blog websites for my clients or for myself. And so the HTML and the CSS are things that I would actually use. It's just a very trimmed down, simple version. So what we're going to do is go ahead and create a new file called cssproject.html. And we're going to add just that basic structure, HTML structure in there. And what we're going to do this time that we haven't actually done yet is we're going to make sure we add that Internet Explorer conditional comment. We haven't been doing that a lot in the CSS lectures because we've been focusing on just the CSS. But because this is kind of an HTML CSS project, we're going to make sure that we do it right. And so first thing, let's just change that title to CSS project. And I'm going to go ahead and copy from a different document here that you would have access to. It's the html-ie.html file that you have in your HTML folder, and you can go ahead and paste that in here at before the closing head tag. It looks like this if you forgot. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to clean out this HTML here because we don't need this. And we're going to actually link a different style sheet altogether because I don't want to actually use the styles that we've been playing around with in style.css. So I'm just going to create a new file called blog.css. I'm going to reference it here and save. And then I'm going to create a new file in my CSS folder called blog.css. And here's blog.css. There we go. Here's our blog style sheet, which means that we've linked it up here, and we should pretty much be good to go. So if I check this out in my browser, this should look plain. There's actually nothing there yet, so we can't tell if it works. Let's just do a quick test. Let's go to our blog.css and just make the body background just a color, any color. There we go. So it works for me. If it works for you, then we should be good to go. The first thing that I want you to do, besides deleting that text, is go to your CSS project.html, and we're actually going to start coding the structure of our blog layout. So the first thing, code an HTML5 header tag. In there, I'm going to add a level 1 heading and say my simple blog. After that, I'm going to add a div with the ID of container. Very simple. And I'm going to add an ending comment here that says the end container ID. Okay, and within there, this is the majority of the HTML coding is going to be this part right here, an article tag. And within that article tag, I am going to add a section HTML5 tag. Give it the class of post-head. And in there, in the post head, I want to add a level 2 heading and just say blog post title. That's where the title would go. And then I'm going to add a small tag right after that H2 and say posted on May 19th. And you could put your date, 2015, because obviously you're looking at this in the future. I'm from the past. You are a time traveler. And I'm going to wrap that time in a time tag. And you should know how to do that. And then to make it even better, I'm going to add the date time attribute and put the correct date time. And so I'm going to say 2015-05-19. I believe that's correct. And now we have a machine readable time, which is beautifully semantic HTML5. Okay, after our section post head, we're going to have another section. And this is going to be section class post body. And within our post body, I want to add just a paragraph tag with some lorem ipsum. And you can get lorem ipsum by I'm using a toolbar plugin called Little Ipsum for the Mac. You can also just Google lorem ipsum, and it'll take you just to a lorem ipsum generator, and you could just generate lorem ipsum text to copy and paste in your code editor. And if you're using Coda, you can actually just type lorem like so, then hit tab, and it should actually autofill a paragraph of lorem ipsum. Just a few tips. So I'm just going to paste that in there. There we go. And then after that section, a sibling tag, we're going to say section class post foot. Whoops. There we go. And in there, I'm just going to add a couple paragraph tags that say filed under general. And then another paragraph tag that'll say written by Brad. Okay. And then I'm just going to copy that article and paste it one more time, just so we have two instances or two articles. There we go. Starting to look a little bit more full here, our HTML page. So try not to get lost. Footer after the final article tag. And in there, we're just going to have a paragraph tag that says copyright. And we're using the copyright HTML entity. And then a bullet, which is just ampersand bull semicolon. Actually, between those, we need to make sure to put the date or the year. There you go. And then Brad Hussey, or you could put your name. Okay, so now we should actually have our just simple blog markup. And this is wonderfully semantic. It's very simple, straightforward. You could see the hierarchy of all the content, and you can read it and understand and have a good user experience with the plain and simple content. And now, since we've done a good job of using HTML for the meaning of the site, we're going to use CSS for presentation to make this look much nicer. Okay, now jump over to your blog.css style sheet, and the first thing we're going to do is use it's an interesting selector. It's just the asterisk. That selects everything, literally every single element. And we're just going to do what's called a really simple CSS reset. Just a simple one. Margin 0, padding 0. That makes every element have margin 0 and padding 0, so that the browser native settings are overridden to just be kind of to look like this. So now we have no margins or padding on any of the elements, so that we can kind of start from fresh and have a consistent design experience while we're coding. Next up, I'm going to select the body tag and change the font size, the global font size, to 18 pixels. And then I'm going to change the font family to Georgia. This is a serif font. And then font stack it to say Times, and then serif as a fallback. And then the background of the entire document, I want to be F2, 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 very light, subtle gray, looks like this. There we go. We're getting cleaner so far. All right, now I'm going to use a grouping selector to select the H1, H2, and H3. Now, you don't have to put spaces between the commas if you don't want. It's not necessary. Just a little note. And then I'm going to say font family for those headings, Helvetica, sans serif. There we go. I can even add Arial in there just to have one more font stack item. There we go. And now I am going to, well, let's see. I'm going to jump back to our CSS project here for a sec. What I want to do is wrap. I think we already did. Okay, good. We made sure to wrap the container around the two articles. The reason why we want to do that is because we want to center only the articles. These articles in the center of the browser within their box. Not text align center, but the content to be centered in the browser using margin 0 auto. The reason why we want that is because we want the header and the footer to not be within that container, so that for the header we can have that full white background that we saw in the example. I'll show you now. Container, I'm selecting container. All I got to do is choose a width. I'm going to say 760 pixels, something nice and narrow. Margin 0 auto. Watch this. See that? Now this is centered within the browser in its 760 box, while the header is outside of it. And the footer actually should be outside as well. So we just need to jump back there in our CSS project and remove the footer from outside of, from inside, whoops, of the container. Go ahead and just take that out, paste it outside of the container, and you're good. Go back to your blog CSS. Now what I want to do is style the header. I'm going to say text align center. Background, I'm going to make this just a straight, flat white. And the color, I want to make it a very specific color. 1A, 71B8. And I'll show you in a sec what that is. Padding, 10 pixels on all sides of the box. There we go. So you have a white, let me show you here. White header right here with just centered blue text. Cool. Next, I want to style the article. The article tag. Here we go. We're going to say background white. We're going to say padding on 20 pixels, all sides. Margin, 20 pixels on the top and bottom, 0 on the left and right. Now let's just see what that looks like. There we go. Starting to come together. Now we got to clean up those articles, the content inside. Everything's just jammed up against one another. So let's select the article paragraph tags. And I'm just going to give that a little bit of margin, 001M, which means only 1M of margin on the bottom of the paragraph tags within the article tag, like so. Let's go ahead and select the section tag, the section with the class of post-head, and then jump into the small tag there. So you see what I did. This is a grouping selector. So I'm selecting the section with the class of post-head, and then I'm selecting the small tag within it. So this selector is really just to select the small tag within this element, specific element. Display block, because small tags are display inline by default. I want to make it display block. So I can use margin. Margin 0020, which means 20 pixels on the bottom, 0 everywhere else. Same with padding. I want to say 0020. The reason why I want to do that is because I want to have margin 20 on the bottom and padding 20 on the bottom, because I want to have a border bottom of solid 1 pixel EEE. And then let's just check that out. Now I'm going to move that border there. Okay, you see this very subtle border right here. So we have padding on the inside. There's padding right here, 20 pixels, and then margin 20 pixels. So that just makes that border sit nicely in the center between this content and this content. It's just visually appealing and something that I actually do quite common. This is almost like second language for me when I type out this specific style. I do this on a lot of my websites. The border like that. And then I'm just going to make the color of that content, the small tag, be 00C6A0. And that should be a nice green kind of color right there. Cool. Okay, let's jump down into some more styles. We're going to select the section with a class of post foot. And then I'm just going to say font size. I'm going to make it smaller, say 14 pixels. Border top, I'm going to do the same thing, the reverse of what I did in the post head. So border top, solid 1 pixel EEE. Margin, 20 pixels 000. Padding, 20 pixels 000. What I could have done for both of these, instead of saying margin 0020 or 20000, what I could have done is I could have actually just said margin top 20 pixels, padding bottom 20 pixels. just to minimize the amount of zeros I had to type. In fact, I don't even have to type this last 0 here. I could have done that, margin bottom, margin top, padding top, but I just wanted to, for me personally, I always just write the full one like so. And that should give us this look right here. Let me move that border that brackets puts in by default. There we go. So you can see we got that border there. So now I'm framing the content, the article content, with these two subtle borders in between the head and the foot, and it looks quite nice. Okay, last little bit here. We're just going to select the footer tag, text align, center, color, AAA, font size, 14 pixels. There we go. Let's see what that looks like. There it is. So nice and centered at the bottom there. Looking pretty good. So there's the simple blog using some very straightforward but common CSS strategies and techniques. And the content here you can see is centered within the browser. Looks pretty cool. And the header spans the full width. And we're doing a bunch of cool things in here. Typography wise looks good. It's a very simple CSS design. And if you were able to follow along at that speed, then you're doing quite well. But that's okay if you have to rewind and start over again. No problem. See you in the next lecture.